So welcome back to Your Family's Health. This is Joan Buckley, and we welcome back our guests from the organ donation Donate for Life. What is it called? Is it an organization? Like, what title should I be using for this? Because I'm going to make sure that that's what I use.
Donate Life has been our logo, really.
It's your logo.
Yeah.
Umbrella.
So that's the umbrella I was looking for. Donate Life. And you all fit into it.
Yes.
And that's perfect. That is perfect. Now, because we talked a little bit about what organ donation is, what organs get donated, and that kind of thing, if someone was listening and they said, I really think maybe I really want to donate or be a donor, what would they do? What would be the first thing that they would do? I mean, I mentioned the driver's license brings it up, but if someone's, say, what's the age limit? How young or how old can you be to donate on your own, make that decision?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. So there are many ways to enroll in the Donate Life Registry. A common one, as you mentioned, is through motor vehicle. And one of the things that has changed recently is a legislative change that just happened on National Donor Day, which is Valentine's Day, February 14th, is that the law now allows for young adults who are going to DMV for the first time to get their learner's permit or their license to enroll in the registry at the age of 16 or 17. And,
wow.
Yeah. And so there are other ways that people can register. They can do it through their voter registration form. And we're actually working on some legislation now that we hope to have passed that would allow for that to happen through SUNY and CUNY registration, or when someone applies for a new library card.
Oh, wow.
Just different ways. They're just more avenues to do it. And currently also the New York State of Health is another way that someone can register. And in fact, there are even just paper forms that the three of us always carry with us. And a couple of your Nassau Community College students were doing a project just the other day on campus as part of an iBank scholarship program.
Wow.
And they registered 10 new donors outside on the football field. And so there are many different avenues to do it. And there's also a way to do it through the iPhone Health app as well now.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
So they should go to Donate for Life site, which has a lot. Trio's on there, the iBank's on there,
through,
everything.
idonation.org.
Yeah, it's all through there.
Yes.
That's excellent. Now, if I say I want to be a donor and I check the box for my voter registration or I check the box on my driver's license, and then my husband says, no, sorry. Where does the legal part stop? Is the person really, if I say I want to be a donor, do family members sometimes say no? Can they change the story or the way I wanted it to be? Or in many cases, I'm sure this comes up.
That's a great question. And I will say that the law states that if someone states they'd like to donate and it's documented and there's proof of documentation, the impetus is for the transplant team to encourage donation, which will save lives, at least 8 lives, and enhance hundreds of lives. If a family is going to be very agitated and upset, I'm sure that they'll take that into consideration and work with the family. But legally, what should happen is the wish of the person that has passed.
Now, who's on the team?
The transplant team includes the hospital personnel that makes the phone call when someone has passed or is progressing towards brain death. It includes the organ procurement team, which is the person that will speak to the family, the transplant coordinator, the transplant hospitals that come in, and as well as the tissue teams. So when someone passes, and I should mention that less than 1% of people that die can actually be organ donors. So this really is an incredible opportunity to save lives and make a difference, but not everybody can.
So what would be some of the reasons why I couldn't donate? Like I check the box, there's no health record, but I say, oh, I do. But what would be some of the things that my family would hear? And if they're following my wishes, then they're okay with it. But what would some of the things be possibly that will exclude me from being a donor?
I've heard even nurses. I've heard nurses say to me, I really wanted to donate my mom's organs, my dad's organs, my grandparents' organs. They wanted to donate as well. But what happened was they cardiac arrested and they weren't at a hospital. Or by the time they got their loved one to the hospital, they had cardiac arrested. By the time family members were contacted or by the time everything occurred, the tissue might not be viable as well, which tissue viability is a little bit longer than organ viability for procurement to save a life or to enhance a life. But there are circumstances. There can be, especially now where we hear of different kinds of diseases or viruses, if it's something unknown, then the healthcare team will be reluctant to procure the organ to transplant into somebody else because it has to be life-enhancing. And so those are certain things that could be rule-outs. And it's like Creutzfeldt-Jakob syndrome. Sometimes they can rule that out for organ donation. And it's different kinds of things like that come into play. Happily, I will also add that certain things that were a rule-out maybe 5 years ago are not a rule out. HIV was totally ruled out, and now it's not totally ruled out. You can save someone's life also that is HIV positive by donating an organ from someone that's HIV.
Jen, you wanted to say something?
When we go and speak in classes, a lot of times we will address that where somebody will say, oh, I can't be an organ donor for this reason or that reason. And I'll tell them it's better to have a doctor decide that at the end of the day, if those are your wishes, to sign up and not be. And I would also ask, wherever I was speaking, would you want to receive an organ if you need it? And most of the room will agree to yes. And when you ask them, though, well, are you a registered organ donor? Many of them are not. So it's a question also to think of yourself. If you're willing to receive the gift of life, you should also be willing to donate it.
Well, that was interesting. I didn't think of that.
That's a great way.
That's a fantastic point. I did just want to go back to your other question for a moment. In terms of giving consent and making your wishes known, if the person is under 18 when they have registered, if they are then considered for donation, then the parent would make the final decision at that point. But I think, too, that it's really important when we do register to have those conversations with our families. Now, it's because it's overwhelming when a family has to make a decision like that. But if we know what our loved ones' wishes are, then we find that people really want to make that happen. And that's something that can happen. And it tends to give the donor families a lot of comfort as well when they know that their loved one is living on by having saved someone's life or, given the gift of sight, for example. It's a benefit to the recipient, clearly, and it's a source of solace to donor families as well.
Do you hear, I know if you go to the Donate for Life site, you do see the stories and you hear the stories, and they're usually written by family members that have gone through the experience and had a loved one that had died for some reason, and it doesn't always go into that reason, but it talks about the value. What can one person donate? Like, how many people could one person save if the organs are all viable, right? If the tissue is viable, what are the numbers? I mean, I think people might like to know just what this gift is.
8 lives can be saved through organ donation and through tissue donation.
That could be at least 50 more people in addition to restoring sight to 2 people. And then, of course, countless people down the line if there's also research being done. So, for example, with eyesight, cornea donation will restore sight through transplant to someone with a corneal blindness. But many people have retinal disease. Maybe they have macular degeneration. It affects a lot of older people, glaucoma, and research is helping people to find treatments and cures for people with those conditions as well.
For me, I was very fortunate that not only did I receive my heart transplant and somebody else will give me the gift of life a second time, but I've received countless blood transfusions, and blood donation goes hand in hand with transplant. And also, I was extremely blessed that after 18 years, I was able to meet my donor mom. Yeah. And for her to finally meet me, when she did, the first thing she had done was place her head against my chest and listen to her son's heartbeat again for the first time in that prolonged amount of years. And it really was a blessing for the two of us. And she said it was the best gift that she could have gotten, to really see where the heart had gone. And for donor families, it is such a great gift. And many people, when I talk to them, especially donor families, most people, you never hear someone regret donating organs, but you hear people regret that they did not at that time. And it really is some form of comfort to know that the gift of life does go on, and it really makes a difference. And it's a gift that there is no price tag, no monetary value that can be put on just being able to live your life and doing an everyday task, which you wouldn't have gotten that chance otherwise. So personally for me and many people I know, even if you do need a second transplant, you were given years that you wouldn't have got to even get to the point of needing a second or third.
Well, I can't even imagine. That's really, actually, you did a great takeaway message right there. I think that kind of sums it all up in a really beautiful way. But if Joy, if you had to give the listening audience a takeaway message, what would you give them?
That you don't have to be female to give life. You can really make a difference. And the individuals that are saved and get a second chance of life are the most wonderful, caring, appreciative people that you can ever imagine. Could you imagine being close to death and then all of a sudden having hope presented by an individual that you might not even know, or all probability don't know? And could you imagine the sense of gratitude that's overwhelming? And I hope that sense of gratitude and that light permeates the world even more, because it really is incredible. It really is miraculous.
Amanda, what do you want to have the listening audience take away?
I think just to go along with what both Jen and Joy are saying, it's an incredible lasting legacy. And all of the people who I've met who are involved in donation and transplant, in terms of recipients who really kind of, getting that new lease on life, really pay it forward and have a new appreciation, I think. I've seen that with Jen and with so many friends that I have met, and just think about, what good that puts out in the world. As Joy was saying, it's a sense of compassion, it's a sense of caring, and that kind of kindness of paying it forward. It's really impossible to measure the ripple effects of that single act of generosity and how it may affect other people's lives for years and years, maybe generations.
I want to thank these three wonderful, amazing women from the Donate for Life, organization. And I want to thank all the people that are listening. And I hope that you are inspired by this particular radio show here on Your Family's Health.
This brings an end to another edition of Your Family's Health on 90.3 FM, the voice of Nassau Community College. Joan Buckley is Professor of Nursing at Nassau Community College. Your comments are always welcome at whpc@ncc.edu. This program was produced at the studios of WHPC 90.3 on the campus of Nassau Community College. Join us again next week for another edition of Your Family's Health.